Okay, this is part 2. Let's continue. Next up I have is the 1990 VHS of The Little Mermaid. Silver Screen Partners. Look at the tape. And I think mine was the sticker label, but I think it got peeled off. And the print date, September 20th, 1990. And it's a good film. One of Disney's better and most successful film from the late 80s, which was 1989. Although you also get to give credit for Oliver and Company and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which started the Renaissance for Disney back in 1988. Although it wasn't the first actual animated film to bring animation into new territory. Don Bluth's An American Tail was. But still, everybody loved them. They got better, although they sort of went downhill when Pocahontas came out. But there were still good movies like Hunchback and Tarzan. Even films like Mulan and Atlantis were decent. And I heard a lot of people said that this cover was banned. No, it was never banned. Like, if you look up on Imagination's channel, it was never banned. They just re-altered it or just send it back into the vault around 1991. Okay, I'm just going to show you both of the different regions of this film, just for a little minor difference of the artwork. Yeah, you probably spot the difference. Rescue is Down Under. And I think this is the first time they mentioned the Dolby surround on the back of this tape. And The Rescue is Down Under is a fantastic film. It's one of the best looking animated films. I mean, the animation's amazing. The camera angles look spectacular. It's also the first Disney film to use Foley caps, which was mostly computer graphics. Although they still use hand-drawn in there, but it looks a lot nicer. It wasn't the first film to use computer graphics from its time. There were a few Disney films that used computer graphics before this. I mean, I think the first one to use minor graphics was The Black Cauldron. And I agree with everybody about this film. It's very underrated. And it's one of the few sequels that's actually a lot better than the first one. The plot was decent, but the animation, the music, the sound, and everything in this was fantastic. And this and Fantasia 2000 are the only films to be a part of the classics canon. Okay, films like Jungle Book 2 and Return to Neverland were actually under the Disney Toon Studios in France, which they should have just went straight to video. I don't know why they had to be in theaters, and no, they didn't count as classics. And this film is going to be in my top 10 best films I've ever seen, along with Fantasia. Sorry, I'll show you the tape. Ink label. And the print date was July the 3rd, 1991. Yep. Yep, same thing as the upper region cover, but except on the US they have the images from the film. Let's look inside. Yep, print date December 8th, 1991. And again, this is an epic film, very underrated. I know some people find this film boring because of musical. I don't care what a lot of people said about it. I think it's one of the finest achievements and groundbreaking from Walt. And I know he wasn't too happy about it when it flopped, because I guess the critics weren't too confident in it, or there was something else going on from its time, like a war or something. But anyway, the animation's great, and okay, I wasn't too crazy about every music in this film. Even a couple were good, and my favorite segment in this film I like is Night on Bald Mountain, and I agree with Doug Walker, or known as the Nostalgia Critic, on this segment, and it's actually number 1 on his top 11 nostalgic Disney villains. And there was also a sequel called Fantasia 2000, which is kind of weird why they called it 2000, because, yeah, it was out nearly at the end of December 1999. It wasn't good as the first one, but it was still really good. Okay, last one I'm going to show in this part is 101 Dalmatians. 101 Dalmatians is a good film. I mean, the animation was okay. To me, it kind of looked diarrhea-ish looking. And the story and the characters had some flaws in it, but it's still a fun and entertaining film. And even Cruella de Vil is a good villain. And there's one scene that kind of scares me from her, but I'm not going to show it. And it's also probably one of Aubrey's Scott's favorite Disney movie of all time. Or it could be The Jungle Book, I'm not sure. Okay. Yeah, the reason why I have two different tapes of this, because it has a different print date and it's got something on the ink label. Okay. Yeah, I do have the Australian version of this tape as well, and also the UK one. Yeah. And there were some Disney tapes around 1992 and 1993 to have the Sorcerer Mickey next to the ink label, but this one doesn't have it. And the print date is... Sorry. Need to get it out there. March 19th, 1992. And the other one right here, even although the sides are damaged, this one has the Sorcerer Mickey next to the Walt Disney Home Video on this one. And the print date is February 24th, 1992. Although they both have the same openings and closings. And there was also an error on this VHS, because usually the Buena Vista logo usually appears at the beginning of every Disney film throughout the 40s up to the 80s, but on here, when it came out to home video, it actually showed it was actually seen at the very end of the film. Although they also had a voiceover error with the Buena Vista logo, saying something like, "Stay tuned for previews of new Disney classics coming to video," which is they were announcing previews like The Great Mouse Detective and Beauty and the Beast. Okay, that's it for part 2. Stay tuned for part 3.